Welcome back to the Center in the City podcast, a space to pause, breathe, and come back to yourself, even in the middle of a full and busy life. I'm your host, Wade Brill, and in each episode, we explore mindfulness for real life, simple practices, reflections, tools to help you feel grounded, present, and connected to what matters most to you. So let's settle in and let's get centered. Welcome back to the Center in the City podcast. I'm your host, Wade Brill, and I am so glad you are here. In today's solo episode, we're going to explore how we can connect to the power of our nervous system and nervous system regulation so that when we're caught in a spiral, when we're feeling really anxious, when we're feeling overwhelmed by the state of the world, what's happening in our life, that we feel empowered because we're strengthening this mind-body connection and coming back to our center as best as we can. It is no surprise that people are feeling really anxious, really stressed, really overwhelmed in these times. I've had many conversations with friends, with clients around, well, are we really having it that bad this time, like this period of life? Didn't our grandparents have it just as bad? And I'm here to say that it's like comparing apples and oranges. They're both fruit, but they're different because the times, the conditions that we're navigating now with technology, with the speed, with our access to information, to videos that are very visual, to pictures, to AI, things that are contorted, it is very dysregulating on a different level than any other generation, any other time period has had to navigate. Now, other time periods haven't had the benefits of certain technologies that have helped them have maybe more food or more security or more financial flexibility because of the internet and working from home or the ability to work around the world, whatever it might be, right? So there's different kind of advantages, pros and cons to navigating hard times. Regardless, the human experience right now is overwhelming, it's challenging, it's intense. So how do we get to meet ourselves and come back to our center? So today I'm going to talk about some of the work of Deb Dana, who works on the Polyvagal Theory, how we can understand and start to map our nervous system, and then use that intelligence to help us navigate challenging times. So wherever you are listening to this podcast, I welcome you to settle in and let's get centered. Understanding the polyvagal theory, understanding that I have a nervous system has been one of the most profound learnings and personal insights and healings in my last decade of life. I learned about the polyvagal theory when I was doing my mindfulness teacher training at UCLA at the Selma Institute of Neuroscience and Human Behavior. And I was taught by Banu Harrison, who is a social worker. She has done a lot of work around and studying around the polyvagal theory. She's actually been on the podcast before. I remember when I was in this specific training, I had this big aha moment of like, oh my God, I have been through trauma. I had never realized that I had experienced trauma. Like I knew I had experienced extreme stress, some shitty situations, being diagnosed with cancer, losing my mom. But to like feel empowered to name it as a traumatic event that left an imprint on my nervous system was a huge aha for me. And it helped me recognize that just because these really horrible things have happened and my body has a memory of them, doesn't mean I am stuck in them forever. And learning about polyvagal theory helped me feel empowered to be able to meet my nervous system with some more curiosity, with some more care, with some introspection, using mindfulness, right? That I could slow down enough to have a mindful inquiry moment to explore my nervous system, to get to know it, so that I could gain information of how to be with it, how to work with it in a more supportive way. And since that aha, I have been working with it for years with a somatic therapist. I have done my own work. I have read, I've studied. And what I've known to be true is that the more I can meet my nervous system, get curious with my nervous system when it gets activated, when I experience stress, when I experience even moments of freeze where I feel just like really shut down, immobile, paralyzed, when I can start to map and have awareness of those moments, it has helped me get unstuck. It has helped me come back to my baseline of a calm, connected place, a ventral vagal, as it's called within the polyvagal theory, state where I can be present, where I can be more alert, where I can be more self-aware, where I can be relaxed, where I can be connected, where I can choose my words more carefully. And I've talked about this before in some other episodes, that being calm, coming back to a calm, connected state, coming back to a ventral vagal state is, yes, like where we want to be living from most of the time. But the point is that our nervous system is intelligently designed to protect us, to keep us in surviving. And so we want to have other natural responses. We don't want to shut down our body from having other responses. The key here is learning how our body is responding and how to meet our body where it is so that we can bring ourselves back to a regulated state where we have more options, where we have more opportunities, where we then start to grow our capacity to just be with what's happening in life. Now, a lot of us, when we're experiencing overwhelm, when we're experiencing stress, anxiety, when we're having these like flare-up moments in our life, or we're just feeling like we're stuck in a toxic environment, maybe it's our job, maybe it's a certain relationship. When we're in those places, it's really easy, especially in our modern day world, to just say, give me a quick fix. What's the one thing I can do? And even though I'm going to share with you some exercises that you can do to help regulate your nervous system in the moment, I want to remind you that really learning how to be with your nervous system in helpful ways is a journey. It's a practice, just like everything else. And I promise you, the more that you can devote to it, the more space you can devote to getting to know your body, to building that mind-body connection, it will have dividends. It will pay off. It will support you. And if you are curious to learn more about your nervous system, I welcome you to check out Deb Dana's books. She has many books. One that I really love is called Anchored. It has a lot of practices in it. It helps you kind of start to map out and understand your nervous system. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And when I work with my coaching clients, we talk a lot about meeting the body where it is, not just the mind. So yes, we do a lot of cognitive behavioral coaching techniques to work with our thoughts, to gain mindful awareness of our thoughts, but we also connect to the intelligence of our bodies, because that is where most of the richness of our intelligence lives. And we've been trained and we've been conditioned to just think it comes through our mind. And so even with journaling, which I love, it's a beautiful practice. It's a life-changing practice. But sometimes when we journal, we can get so caught in language because, our mind uses language to process what is happening. But our body might not use the same language that our mind does. So learning how to also listen to the language, the sensations of the body starts to tell us different things. And when we experience sensations in our body, it's really easy for our mind to make meaning from them right away. Like, oh, my stomach just made a growl. That means I'm hungry. Well, it's like, well, let me pause and slow down. Like, am I really hungry? Was it making a growl because it was digesting something or some acid was moving around? Or is it trying to communicate something else? Now, I know you might be thinking like, wait, I don't have time to learn the language of my body. I am busy doing my job, which is like 60 hours a week, and building a family and trying to take care of things and have hobbies and want to enjoy life and want to watch TV and want to read and all these things. Like, I don't have time for this shit. And I hear you. And I'm not here to force anything on you. I think you have to come to this work when you're ready, when you're hitting a point where you realize that learning the language of your body is one of the biggest gifts you can give yourself. For me, learning the language of my body, and I'm still learning. I'm not there. Like, it is a constant relationship that I'm building, has been so powerful because not only do I think it's helped me with my relationship with food, it's helped me with my relationship with anxiety, it's helped me with my relationship to just body love and acceptance. It's helped me with my relationship to my partner because I'm feeling confident and connected to my body, and that supports our romantic relationship. It also supports emotional regulation, communication. And when I think about entering a new journey of even just motherhood one day, knowing that my relationship to my body is going to change. And so even just having a connection to my body before the journey begins, I think is a huge gift so that I can really hold myself and my body in hopefully a loving, nurturing way during a really big life transition moment. So what is the polyvagal theory? The polyvagal theory was created by Dr. Stephen Porges, and it's essentially this idea that there is a vagal, the vagus nerve, a vagal pathway that connects a bunch of nerves from the stem cell of our brain, and it travels all the way down our throat and our torso into our stomach. And so it's connected to our heart and it's connected to our digestive system. And so it's this long pathway of nerves that are very much tied to our nervous system reactions and responses. And so when we break this system down even further, we think about the autonomic nervous system, this like big overarching branch of our nervous system. And that can be divided into the sympathetic nervous system on one side. And the sympathetic nervous system is when we get into that fight flight state. And then the other side of it is our parasympathetic nervous system, when we are in more of a place of relaxation. And when you break down the parasympathetic nervous system a little bit further, part of that is what's called the ventral vagal state, which is this calm, connected place where our nervous system feels safe, we feel aware, we feel alert, we feel relaxed, we feel socially connected to one another, we feel settled. This is where we might feel more creative. And then there's another part of the parasympathetic branch, which connects to a place of freeze or collapse. So this is called the dorsal vagal system. And this can be when we feel exhausted, depressed, hopeless, helpless, overwhelmed, disconnected. We're in a hypo-aroused state where we're kind of more of this shut down energy too low, right? Too slow. So it's really interesting to visualize these nerves from the base of our skull, through the throat, through the torso, through the diaphragm, into our abdomen, this vagal pathway. It's these nerves and information is running from the base of our stem, from our brain, down into our gut, and from our gut and our heart and our diaphragm all the way back up to our brain. You can kind of think of it like an information highway. And according to Deb Dana's research, 80% of the information is going from the body up to the brain, and about 20% of information is going from the brain back to the body. So this is why having a mind-body connection is so important, because when we are not in tune to the body, listening to the body, listening and getting to know our nervous system, this vagal pathway, it creates disconnection. We're not able to tune into really important information. So to zoom into the vagal pathway, the ventral vagal, this calm, connected place, this system where we are more regulated, we're more present, that can be more associated with the part of our body from our diaphragm up into our heart space. So that's why, when we might feel a sense of compassion for somebody else, or our heart might ache, or when we're maybe seeing somebody that we love, or thinking of somebody that we care fondly of, or watching a sweet movie of connection, we might feel some energy in our heart space. And when I say energy, like for me, that shows up like warmth, or like maybe like a pinging awe feeling, or like a burst of like love sensation. I can sometimes feel it as like warmth, or even sometimes feel like a bright color, or just like an explosion of openness and warmth that I want to share with others. So I welcome you to pause here and think about, you can even place your hand on your heart center if that feels helpful to have that physical touch, and just notice, what does it feel like to feel connected, to feel maybe a sense of safety, to feel warmth. And if you're in a state where it feels hard to connect to that, maybe you're walking, or you're in commute, or there's busyness around you, you can come back to this, or maybe even bring to mind a time where you maybe hugged a loved one. It could be a furry friend, or a partner, or a family member. Just getting curious about what that sensation of connection feels like for you. Now, the dorsal vagal system is more associated with your diaphragm and below, so more to your gut, to your digestion. So when you are in a calm, connected state, when you're in a ventral vagal state, your dorsal vagal area, which connects to your gut, its primary job is to help the digestive system function normally, right? Feeling that sense of rest and digest, feeling ability to connect, feeling like things are flowing in the system. But when there is a stress response, when there is some sort of threat or alert to the physical body, what starts to happen is the dorsal vagal then shuts down the digestive system and enters the body into more of a survival state, where we feel disconnected, where we feel numb, that hypo-aroused state. You might feel like you're going through life on autopilot, or numbed out, or just zoning out. You're not really feeling present or connected. The body goes into conservation mode, where it's just trying to use as little bit of energy as possible, because it's trying to stay alive, but it's not in a place where exertion is activated. Now, I have a lot of clients who experience digestive issues, who notice that they have maybe irritable bowel syndrome, or they just have trouble or delayed digesting food and going to the bathroom regularly because there's maybe some energy stuck in this place of the body. I am not a doctor. I'm not here to diagnose anybody. But what I've noticed is sometimes it's, food related, sleep related, hydration related. And a lot of the times it's also tied to emotions, how we're managing, storing stress, and processing our emotions in our body. And when people's bodies aren't functioning, quote unquote, normally or functioning in an easeful way, it can also spike a level of anxiety, like what's wrong with my body? What's wrong with my digestive system? What's wrong with me? And it can spiral people up and out. And so without going too much down that pathway, because I feel like that's a whole other podcast episode and something I work with my one-on-one clients on, how to meet ourselves kindly and compassionately. But I want to say that we don't want to shame the body for how it's responding, because there is some intelligence of how it's responding. And we want to get to know it. We want to be curious. We want to befriend it so that we can understand it. And then from that place of understanding, work with it in a loving, skillful way. And so the body, even if you're noticing some digestive issues as I talk to you, or if you bring to mind, a moment where you were stressed and you notice that kind of clenching feeling in your stomach, or some butterflies, or a feeling of tingles or rupture or cramping, whatever it might be for you, to know that that's the body doing its job. And like how miraculous is your nervous system and your body for functioning. And we just want to thank it. We don't want to shame it. We want to really appreciate it. So in this moment, I welcome you to tune in, maybe placing your hand below your abdomen and feeling your dorsal vagal region, and just noticing what sensations maybe feel present for you in this moment. And if you're noticing you're feeling a little stressed, maybe there is a specific sensation showing up, or if you're in more of a relaxed state, noticing what sensations are showing up. And just allowing yourself to be with what is, meeting your body where it is. And a lot of what we're doing here is building interoception skills, learning the sensations and language of our internal landscape. Now, there's so much more information here when it comes to understanding the vagus nerve and the vagal pathway, but I wanted to just give you a light sense of mapping it in your body. And if you're curious to learn more, feel free to reach out for one-on-one coaching. Feel free to pick up books to learn, to understand, to keep doing your own self-discovery. But when you can start to map, it's empowering, because you start to recognize how is the body responding to then what's happening, not only internally, but externally. And externally, when there's a lot of noise, when there's a lot of chaos happening, when you're around certain people, situations, environments, how is the body responding? Again, learning to listen, to take note of what the body is communicating to you, might show up in very different ways. Like for some people, it might be visuals, it might be sensations, temperature, texture, colors. Maybe you hear sounds. So when you listen to the body's information, right, 80% of that information is flowing up to the brain. And then the brain is going to use language to identify it. And so before you even let the brain make a story of it, I welcome you to slow that story down. Get curious so that you're not living from a story in the mind, because that's where we can get into quote unquote trouble, right? That's where life can get really tricky. Believe me, I have lived a lot of my life in the stories of my mind, and it has not been helpful or skillful. And so that's where mindfulness gets to help us, where we get to notice with curiosity. We get to inquire a little bit more deeply so that we're building this mind-body connection and not just living in the automatic story that happens in the mind. As we explore some ways that we can regulate our nervous system, I want to remind us that the intention is not to stay in ventral vagal all day, every day, because that's kind of impossible. Our body is going to naturally fluctuate into different responses based on what's happening. And it does that from its own intelligence to keep us safe, right? We want our body to have a response if we're about to step out into the street and almost get hit by a car. We want to have that strong reaction, sympathetic response that brings us into fight or flight to maybe save us, right? To jump back from the dangerous car. But all day, every day, when we're staying in a sympathetic state, right? If we're in a toxic work environment, if we're in a toxic relationship, if we're in spaces where we're constantly out of ventral vagal, then we want to more skillfully be able to meet ourselves to come back to regulate over time. Again, not because we're broken, not because we need to be fixed, but just as a place of regulation so that we have more choices to be accessible. I recently shared this in an Instagram post because I wanted to empower people to think about how can you meet yourself? How can you support yourself regulating? It's not necessarily a one size fits all. Depending on how your body, how your mind responds to a certain situation, you might go into a sympathetic state or you might go into a dorsal, shut down, hypoaroused state. When we're in different states, our body needs different things to regulate, to come back. So I'm going to offer some things that work for me, and this is part of what you can explore on your own. This is if you're like, oh my God, I need more support with this. This is an opportunity to reach out for more coaching. This is also something that I integrate into my mindfulness retreats because I want people to feel empowered that they're leaving with tools that they can actually integrate into their everyday life. So if you're curious to learn more about coaching or even join a wait list to learn more about mindfulness retreats upcoming, check out the show notes. So when I am in a sympathetic state, when I'm in that fight flight, I'm feisty energy, what I want to do to bring me back to more of my ventral vagal, this calm connected state, is to make my exhales longer than my inhales. So for instance, I can breathe in for the count of 4 and breathe out for the count of 6. Even making my exhales just like 2 to 3 breaths longer can really help slow down the heart rate. It can help relax the body and tell the body that I am safe. Box breathing is another really powerful technique. I'm sure you've heard a lot about box breathing in the last 5 years. Box breathing is breathing in for the count of 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, and then being on empty, taking in no air for the count of 4. And that is a really powerful breathing technique to, again, slow us down, bring our mind to focus, and come back to this calm, connected state. Box breathing is really helpful for people who are also more visual, to visualize breathing a box, a square, 4x4 square. Can also keep the mind focused on something versus racing thoughts. Walking is a very powerful technique to regulate our nervous systems. Maybe if you're feeling really activated, taking a slower paced walk to help yourself feel a little bit more grounded in the present moment, finding your feet. This is one of the reasons I created centered walks, is because I wanted people to have guided practices that help them regulate their nervous system, because not just taking walks is so beneficial for our mind and our nervous system and our overall just health and well-being. But when you're taking a walk, hopefully you're getting outside, and being outside, being in nature, being in a park, seeing trees, seeing birds connecting to life away from a screen is very powerful. Another powerful breathing technique for regulation when in a sympathetic activated state, I learned this from Dr. Peter Levine. You want to make a VOO sound. So you take a deep breath in, and then as you exhale, VOO. And that humming pattern activates the vagus nerve in our throat, right, which travels all the way down into our heart and our gut. So we're regulating ourselves. We're coming back to a place of connection and feeling more calm and present. So if you try that, even pressing pause and taking a moment to try that, for me and my body, I feel just like tingles. I feel the vibration. It's automatically really grounding. And a fun thing about this is that it also just feels like it's moving energy, and it's moving energy in my body in a different way than just connecting to a breath pattern. Sometimes I've had this like activated energy in me, and I've needed to get it out by like punching some pillows, just really just letting it out of my fist, out of my arms, feeling that sense of power in my torso, just be really punched out, released. So that can be a helpful way to process anger and some of that activating energy. Now, when I've experienced dorsal vagal, right? This more of shutdown, freeze, collapse energy. It can be sometimes really subtle. Like sometimes I don't really know that I'm in it, but the more that I can get comfortable being with it, the more I've learned ways to help me meet that energy in my body, that sense of shutdown. So a lot of the times, and I love getting this feedback from people will tell me when they see me doing some, walk and talk videos on Instagram that I am walking really fast. Or they're like, why are you skipping or bopping in your videos? And it's interesting because a lot of my day is around offering regulated meditative places. And so even though sometimes I come and I'm hopefully being in a ventral vagal state, what I've come to realize is that sometimes I enter too much of a freeze state. Like my body is in more of an immobile place. And so taking a fast walk feels so invigorating. It actually helps me elevate my energy, move my energy so that there's more chi, there's more energy flowing through my system and helping me come back to a ventral vagal state. So getting out and running, biking, doing something that is cardiovascularly engaged, elevating your heart rate, getting you to breathe a little bit heavier is really good to bring you out of that dorsal vagal, help move things. When we're in the dorsal vagal shutdown, we want to do the inverse with our breath pattern. So we want to make our inhales longer than our exhales. So for instance, maybe breathing in for the count of 6 and breathing out for the count of 4. And you can think of that. What's a helpful visual for me is like when you're standing at the edge of a cold pool or jumping in the ocean, you take a deep breath in, a bigger breath in to help give you some strength, to help give you some courage to take that next step. And that's kind of what needs to happen when we're in a freeze state, is that we need to kind of like gather some of that energy to then move. One of my other favorites is when I am in a shutdown place is to put on some music and dance. So moving the body, again, is really helpful when in a dorsal space. It's moving energy. It's creating a sense of safety, especially if you're moving in a way that feels pleasant and elevating. You're not moving from a place of survival, like running away from something scary. This tells your body that it's safe. So putting on music that's enjoyable, letting the body just dance, shaking it off, that is all really helpful ways to regulate. Learning to meet our nervous system, learning to meet our bodies where they are, getting to know them, getting to play with different practices that support ourselves. This is key. We don't want any of this false positivity bullshit to just say, suck it up, or you'll be better, or you'll be fine, because that doesn't work. That puts a Band-Aid on our experience. It doesn't meet the root of what we're actually feeling and needing. To share an example, I have been healing from some surgery for the last 2 weeks. I had some abnormal skin cells removed from my left knee. And because of that, I've been immobile for the last 2 weeks. I have barely been able to walk until just recently, barely been able to work out, which is killing me. My mind is going stir crazy. And I could feel the other day my body go into a dorsal vagal response. My body shut down because I started to get this flashback from when I was younger and my caretakers not meeting my needs as a little kid, which happens to all of us, no matter how great of a childhood you had, especially if you had a pretty shitty childhood or really hard or challenging one. This memory came up of where I was sick and the response was just suck it up, suck it up. So my body went into a freeze state, I noticed, because it felt so helpless of what can I do here to heal? I'm told that I'm supposed to just suck it up and move on. So that means just like shove down my pain, my response, my desire to care and meet my own ouch. And so I realized, because I've been practicing this for years and years and years, I had that realization that my mind, my body went to that memory. And so I paused what I was doing and I was about to hop on a client Zoom call, right? So it's not that I just have all the time in the world here. I recognize that. And part of my job is to hold space for other people and to not be in my own stories and shit. So I needed to kind of take care of myself. And I paused before I got on the call, took literally a minute, maybe even less, put my hand on my body and took a moment to just breathe and give my little girl in that memory some love, to remind myself that, like, I see you, I feel you, I'm so sorry your needs weren't met in that moment, and that it's okay. Like, I'm here to meet your needs now, and I'm here to be here for you, for us, and to just take that moment of self-healing. And it was a place, it was really powerful. It was so short, but it was so powerful because I was meeting my needs. I wasn't pushing it away. I took that moment to meet myself in that ouch. And that helped me come back to a calm, connected state. That helped me come back to a place where I could feel more present, where I wasn't abandoning myself, where I was meeting myself and able to show up for others. So this work is so powerful. It's so deep. There's so many layers to it. And so if you're listening to this and you are somebody who's really new to mind-body connection or to nervous system regulation or to polyvagal theory, then just know that that is okay. And that is great that you are here. That is great that you are curious. That is great that you are starting your journey with yourself. And there are so many deeper layers that are available to you on the journey of self-healing and on nervous system regulation. Another great way to deepen your relationship to your nervous system is to take my overwhelm archetype quiz. So if you haven't taken that yet, you can head on over to wadeburrell.com/quiz. It's a really simple quiz. Will take you a few moments, like 2 minutes, and you'll understand what your primary overwhelm archetype is, how you typically respond to stress and overwhelm. And that will also give you some language and some exercises and some tools to start to deepen that mind-body connection, which might be the perfect place for you to start. So if you haven't done that yet, I highly recommend. And that's a beautiful way to enter the mind and the body and start to build that relationship with it. Thank you for being here today. I'm so curious to hear what you're taking away from this episode. We kind of went in deep, and I'd love to hear what's resonating, what you have questions about, what you're wanting to learn more about. Reach out to me on Instagram at OneWade to keep the dialogue going. Linked in the show notes will be all sorts of resources and goodies that you can follow up on. And thank you so much for welcoming me into your ears, your heart, your mind, your body. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with somebody else in your community and take a moment to rate and review. Your feedback, your words, your thoughts, they mean so much to me. Until next time, stay centered.